in our neighborhood. And today, my special guest is Miss Carolyn Guidry. Good morning,
Good
Carolyn.
morning. Good morning.
Hey, listen, before we get started this morning, Carolyn, I want everybody to like this, love it, share it, do it right now. Like, love, share, and comment about what we're about to discuss with Miss Carolyn Guidry. So, Carolyn, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've been a Beaumonter the majority of my life, born and raised here, attended the infamous Hebert High School. I'm a mother of two children and the proud grandmother of two grandchildren. So right now, that is my pride and joy. I have a 2-year-old. And other
Oh,
than that, during this pandemic time, it's work and go home.
yes, yes. Now, Carolyn, you've been the county clerk for how long?
16 years.
Wow, wow. So, have you enjoyed your time there?
I really have. It's been challenging at times, but I'm a people person. I love meeting people. I love engaging in people, and I certainly like being an asset or help to anyone in the community that I can.
Now, Carolyn, many people don't know what the county clerk's office does. I mean, you got a whole list of things that you do. So tell us a little bit about what the county clerk's office is all about.
Well, the county clerk is actually the official record keeper for all county records dating back to 1830 when the county was first incorporated. And so our job is to make sure that we preserve our records, especially all the historical records, which predate 1950. So we pretty much have the story of a person's life here. Because if you were born up until 1966, your birth record would be here. If you died up until 1965, your debt record would be here. If you bought property, it came through our office. If you got married, it came through our office. I always say the only thing that we don't do, we put you together, but we don't take you apart because if you want a divorce, then you have to go see the district clerk for that. So, uh, we even preserve the cattle brand. You'd be surprised at the number of people that's very protective of their cattle brands, which came in very handy during the hurricane times because we had a lot of unclaimed livestock, had a lot of dead livestock. So at least we were able to associate that with the owners and stuff and help out the law enforcement people.
So, Carolyn, you've been digitizing all of the records because, like you said, it went back to 1836. So how's that process going?
Right. It's going well. Back in when they first opened the courthouse, everything was either handwritten, and then of course at some time later, probably the 50s or so, they acquired typewriters. And then sometime in the 80s, they went to the computers, which were just standalone type computers, but nothing was really digitized. So since I've been here, it's been my baby, I'm going to say, to make sure that we get all our records digitized so that everything is accessible through the internet or through someone's computer. So really, you should not have to leave home in order to obtain a record. All of our records will be online, hopefully, within the next year. That's excluding birth and death because those are only available to family members.
Okay, not only that, but Carolyn, you also handle the military records, correct?
Right. DD 214 is also a part of our official public records. If anyone wants to file their DD 214, which is their military discharge records, we're more than happy to file them free of charge. They're entitled to a copy of their DD 214s at least once a year, free of charge. And this really helps the veterans because I've had a lot of, especially widows, when the husband passes someone and they need that DD 214 for the burial process. So if it's here at the county clerk's office, you can always get a certified copy. So I'm like, instead of putting it away in a drawer where you won't know where it is, bring it to us. At least let us file and image it for you, and you'll always have that record.
Wow. And then, Carolyn, you are responsible for the commissioner's court minutes.
Yes, Commissioners Court normally meets once a week. Right now, we moved the court date to Tuesdays, so everything that transfers through the Commissioners Court, we have to keep a record of it. That is a permanent record, whether it's just a motion or it's tabled, any documents associated with it, all the contracts, all the bids. So all that goes through Commissioners Court, and they are public record, and they are available for viewing.
Well, those who think you don't do anything besides elections, I mean, that's a whole bunch right there, Carolyn.
Yeah, you sound like a lot of people I know. Oh, why you tired? You don't do anything. I'm like, okay. Sit in my seat for a day and you'll find out. This
But
is a
the,
very, very busy office. In fact, our revenue, we are one of the only, I can say, self-supporting offices in the county. Our revenue that we bring in is about $4 million a year, which is not even one half of my budget, which is more than the budget that I'm given,
did you say 4 billion or 4 million?
No, 4 million. Okay, we're not
Oh,
into billions here. Million, 4 million.
but now you also handle the elections that we're about to come up to in November. All of the elections come through your county clerk's office. Is that correct?
I do the administration for the elections that was assigned to me by Commissioners Court. So I do the administration part. I don't have the voter registration part that is handled through the tax assessor collector's office. She is the voter registrar. So anything to do with the voting database, I do not handle. But when it comes to the elections themselves, making sure that we have adequate polling locations, making sure that people get ballots or mail ballots if they choose to, making sure we have enough workers in the field to accommodate the people that want to go vote. That is part of my job, the administration side.
Now, okay, so you're responsible for early voting and voting day. So when does early voting begin?
Early voting actually is going to begin October the 13th, and it's been extended earlier. Normally we have 2 weeks of early voting, but because of the COVID and the pandemic that we're in right now, Governor Abbott has extended the early voting period. So we will be starting on the 13th of October all the way through the 30th of October for early voting.
Now, there's big talk about mail-in ballots. I mean, every time I turn on the news, everybody's talking about mail-in ballots, absentee balloting. Can you clear up what's going on with that?
Okay, well, in Texas, we do have absentee ballots, which means you have to have a reason to vote by mail. Either you can be 65 and older, you can be disabled, or you can be outside the county during the election period, and you will be eligible for a ballot. So our absentee ballots, we process. You have to apply for an application. We send you out an application, and then once we get the official ballot ready and programmed, then you will be mailed a ballot. It's very important that however you sign your application is how you sign the back of that ballot, because the early voting ballot board compares signatures to make sure the person that applied is the person that actually received the ballot and sent it back in. So I get alarmed when they start talking about voter fraud, because we have too many checks and balances in place to be worried about voter fraud. And I got to give it to my staff. They do an excellent job. Both parties help us with the early voting ballot board and the verification process. And they've been diligent at their duties to make sure that every vote is counted.
Okay, so let me clarify. So I'm 53. I cannot get an absentee ballot, correct?
Not unless you have a disability.
Okay, so if I'm not disabled, I'm under 65, I cannot
Right.
get an absentee ballot.
Unless you're outside the county.
Okay.
Those are the reasons.
Okay. All right. That's good. So I'm not 65. I'm not
Okay.
disabled, and I'm
Okay.
not outside the county. I
Okay, then
cannot
you
get
need
an
to vote.
absentee ballot.
You must vote in person. That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
All right. So now again, early voting is October 13th through October 30th. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So what must a in-person voter have in order to vote in this upcoming election?
You must have some form of a photo ID that's authorized by the state. Most people come with their driver's license. Some people will use passports, military IDs that's has a photo on it. So there's several different types of IDs. They're all listed on our website. If you have any doubt whether or not you qualify, and if all else fails, then always just call us.
So Carolyn, I wanted to go back for the mail-in ballots for a second. Is there a particular time that I need to have my mail-in ballot in the mail before the election?
Yes. In order to be qualified for the November 3rd election, we must receive your mail in ballot by the election date, November the 3rd, by 5 p.m. Well, yeah, 5 p.m. No, 7 p.m. I'm sorry, by 7 p.m. when the polls close. So your ballot must be here to our office or postmarked in order to be eligible counted.
We don't have an excuse for not voting at a precinct because now everyone can vote anywhere in the county, correct?
That's correct. We have vote centers. We no longer vote by precinct, which means that if you live in Beaumont but you work in Port Arthur, you can go to a polling location in Port Arthur or Nederland or Port Neches, anywhere within Jefferson County where there's a polling location. And we have 40 vote centers on election day. You can go and vote. We have 11 early voting locations. And of course, you can vote anytime during early voting. But on election day, the same rules apply. You can vote wherever you decide to stop and vote.
There are 11 early voting polling sites and then
Right.
40 voting centers on election day.
That is correct.
Now, are they required to wear a mask? Because you know that's what's going on right now. People are like, well, I don't want to wear a mask, this, that, and the other. But are you requiring that they wear a mask if they're going to vote in person?
I cannot require it according to the Secretary of State. I can only ask. But what we did do for the last runoff election, for those that did not have masks, we did provide masks and offered it to them. But we cannot make anyone wear a mask to come into the polling location. Of course, if they come into the courthouse, which is a polling location, that's not an option because it's mandated here at the courthouse. But at any particular polling location, it is not mandated.
Okay,
but
so
we all want to stay safe, and
yes,
we all want everybody else safe. So we really would appreciate it if our voters would come with the mask.
okay. Do you do any type of sanitizing of the equipment once someone votes?
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, we are handing out masks at the doors for those that don't have one that's willing to take one. We also have sanitizer at the door. Each time that they check in into the poll pad, which is where they sign in and they are a registered voter, that piece of equipment is wiped down. When they go to the voting machine, then after each voter, there is a clerk that's going to wipe that machine down thoroughly before we place another voter at that particular machine.
Talk to us about the need to have some patience because there's some changes that have been made for this upcoming election.
Yeah, you're so right. You know, this is the first year that we're not going to have straight party voting. So a lot of people just go to the polls and, you can hit Republican or Democrat and you're through. But this year, you have to actually go through the ballot and select each candidate by name. They will have a party affiliation on the side of their name. But the process will be a little bit lengthy. And then because of the pandemic, all the elections from May, the normal political subdivision elections, were moved. And the governor mandated that those elections that were moved from May to November, that we must accommodate them and do a joint election. So not only do we have our general presidential election on this ballot, but you'll have elections for political subdivisions. For instance, we're contracted with the City of Groves, City of Port Neches, City of Port Arthur, Port Neches Groves ISD, Port Arthur ISD, Horton Jefferson ISD, Bevel Oaks, and I think it's one more, DD7. So depending on where you live, you may have a ballot with multiple political subdivisions on it. You'll have the general election. If you live in Port Arthur, for instance, you'll have the general election. You'll have the City of Port Arthur. You may have Port Arthur ISD or Port Neches Groves ISD, depending on which school district you're in, because they're split. And you will also have DD7. All that will be on one ballot, which will be very time consuming for a voter to go through to be thorough. We always have sample ballots available, and I always advise study your ballot before you get to the polls, and that will make the process a little bit quicker.
Now, they can get those sample ballots online, is that correct?
The sample ballots are online on our website.
Well, Carolyn, one of the things that I've always been interested in is how do you count all the votes?
Well, that's done by our tabulation department. The Commissioner's Court appoints a counting station manager. They appoint our tabulation supervisor and our assistant tabulation supervisors. So they are actually responsible for the tabulation of all of that. Of course, that's all happens down at the election board, the counting station, and everything is on an MBB card. That's the new way of everything now. So actually, what they're doing, they're taking those cards and they're reading that and uploading the data, and that's how the ballots are counted. Now, the paper ballots are actually run through a scanner, and there's a different process for that. They run those through a scanner. The results are put on an MBB card, and then that MBB card is also read into the complete tabulation. So it's a process, but I got to give it to the people that's been handling our elections for the last 16 years that I've been here. They do an excellent job. And most of the time, we're very timely with our results. Longest thing that takes for our results is that our county is so spread out. Uh, we have to wait for people to come from Sabine Pass. We have to wait for people to come from China, from the Nome area. It just depends on where they're coming from, all the way from the municipal airport. So until we get that equipment or the cards to read, we can't tabulate anything. So we have to depend on our poll workers to close the polls and then bring this media data in to be tabulated.
All I can think of, Carolyn, is the hanging chads. People looking at the chad.
That was my very first election and my only election with punch cards.
So
That was in 2004. After that, we went to electronic voting. 2004. After 2004.
Okay.
Yes.
So now, one of the other things, Carolyn, that you're in need of is volunteer. Well, you need some poll workers. So talk to us about the
Yes.
need for poll workers.
Well, we're going to need additional poll workers. As you know, the average age of our poll worker, we're all senior citizens. So
No.
we're the at risk population. Yeah, it's true. The average age is probably 65, 70, and older. So we are the at risk population. And that's why it really is imperative if people will to wear their masks when they come in. Because not only am I concerned about our constituents, but I'm concerned about about the clerks that's working, that's trying to accommodate the voters as well. So yes, it would be nice if we could get some younger poll workers. This is kind of like I always say, it's like a thankless job, but it's a much needed job. The pay is only $11 an hour, but we do need volunteers. Even students in high school can volunteer to assist. They have to get a special form and get permission from the school to work during elections. But we have had students, we had plenty of students this summer to help while they were out of school. So I'm hoping that in November we will be able to also get some additional students. But there will be a great need to get poll workers, and we're not all seasoned, as I say.
Hey, well,
Yeah.
Carolyn, I didn't know that people get paid for that. I thought it was all volunteers.
No, they get, well, if you call that pay, but yeah, they get $11 an hour. And like I said, election day is a long day because it's like anywhere from a 12 to 13-hour day. And as we get older, that's getting hard on the older election workers and stuff. So we really need our younger people, people that's maybe just retiring from these jobs, to step up and step in and let's get trained. We do have excellent training for them. It's no rocket scientist work. It's just a willing to do and to assist.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. Is there any type of specialized training that a person who may want to participate and be a poll worker needs to have?
Yes, we do train our poll workers, and we plan to start our training in September. We do train them. We train them on the procedures, and then we train them on hands-on how to handle the equipment as well. So that's very, very important. But like I said, it's no rocket scientist work. It just needs a willing worker and someone that's willing to dedicate their time for $11 because that's a dedication. It really
Yeah,
is.
yeah. Hey, and so a student that's in high school can participate also. You said, right?
Absolutely, and we welcome them to do so. You don't have to be a registered voter if you're a student. 16 years on and up, 16 years old and up
That's
can
another
work.
good question I wanted to ask you, Carolyn. What's the age that a young person can begin the process of voting?
They begin voting when they're 18 years old, but you can register to vote when you are 17 years and 10 months. You can register. So
Okay.
if your birthday falls on November the 3rd, make sure you get registered before the 30 days so that you can vote in the November the 3rd election because you will be eligible at 18.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. And it's time for these young people to step up.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, we don't want to just get them registered. We want to get them to the polls. That's even more important.
Yes.
Yep. Pastor Sharp, one thing I do need to clarify. I've been getting a lot of questions because it's been all on the news about the drop boxes for your ballots, for your mail ballots.
Go right ahead.
Uh, in Texas, we're a little bit different. We don't have drop boxes like the mailboxes all over the city and stuff. What we will have only at the courthouse, the main courthouse here, 1085 Pearl Street, and the sub courthouse in Port Arthur, which is 525 Lakeshore Drive, we will have a ballot box drop off. But in order to drop off your ballot, it must be your ballot only, and you must show photo ID when you bring your ballot. So that's how we will, but those that don't feel real good right now, comfortable about the mail service, if they want to drop their ballots off, they can do that here at the courthouse or at the sub courthouse. Anytime during our normal business hours, as soon as you get that ballot, we plan to send the first batch of ballots out around the 26th of September. So by the 1st or so of October, you should be getting your ballots. Fill it out, send it in right away. Send it in or bring it in right away. Don't hold on. You don't have to hold on to it until election day. And the sooner you get it in the mail, the greater the chances of it being delivered on time.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, Carolyn. I mean, look, once you get it, fill it out and send it right back. I mean, tell the
Yes.
mailman to wait up. Stop right there,
Yeah.
mailman. I'm gonna give it right back to you.
Yeah, I'd send it right back out if I were going to mail mine. I would not hesitate. If I'm not going to bring it down there, then I would put it in the mail. The day I got it, the next day it'd be filled out and in the mail. Not only that, if you want to, if you know you mailed it one week, follow up the next week. Give us a call and say, hey, I sent my ballot. I just want to make sure y'all got it. We don't mind checking. That's what we're here for. Because we want to make sure that everybody votes counts. This is a very, very special election. And we need to make sure that, everybody that wants to vote, everybody that wants to take part in this process of voting, is that we're here and we're going to make their votes count.
Hey, Carolyn, and I thank you that you said that, because I want people to know that there is no way that people can vote twice in our county, correct?
No, there's not. Because we have vote centers, and the way we were able to obtain vote centers is because our database is on real time. As soon as you check in at any one polling location, your name is registered and you are marked as voted. Okay? So you can't leave, say, the Pear Orchard and go to the West End and think you're going to go to another vote center and go register there, because when they pull your name up, it's going to be marked that you've already voted. So we have real-time database in the field. We have Wi-Fi cards. We're up to date. That's the only way that we can have a vote center. We can have vote centers that have real-time updates. So within seconds, that database is updated.
And look, they don't want to do that either, because I think it's a federal offense to try to vote twice, huh?
Well, it is. And that's why I said, Pastor Sharp, is that, people talk about voter fraud, but I don't know of any that we've had in Jefferson County in my years anyway. Even with the mail ballots, they are marked. Once we send a ballot out to you, when we get the ballot back in, they're marked received. If you try to go to a polling location and you decide that you want to vote in person and not by that mail ballot, you must bring your mail ballot in. If you don't bring your mail ballot in, you will have to vote by a provisional ballot. And that gives us time to go back and check to see, okay, they were marked for a mail ballot. Did they actually send that ballot in, and has it been counted already? So that's why you're going to be voting a provisional ballot. But if you choose to bring that ballot back to a voting location and turn it in, then you can vote in person.
So, Carolyn, in our closing moments, is there anything you want to tell the public today that we haven't talked about?
Well, I just want to tell them, how important it is for them to exercise their rights to vote. This is a very important election. I think I'm going to say my life depends on it. Well, that's for every election. For me, I believe in taking part in the process, but especially this year of 2020 and our presidential candidates and stuff, we need to make sure that whatever our choices are, that at least we are part of the solution and not part of the problem by just not casting our ballot.
One of the things I'd say all the time is if you don't vote, don't complain.
Yeah, I say that all the time too. Do they listen? Do they listen? Do they listen?
So, Carolyn, how can those who want to get a mail ballot or contact you and get their mail ballot sent to them?
Oh yeah, please call us. We're glad to send you out an application. Our number is 409-835-8760. You just call, give us your name and your birth date, and we'll be glad to send one out to you. You fill it out. You tell us what your reason is for voting. We don't know. Even if your birthday, say like mine in 1952, if you don't check that you're over 65, then we're not going to assume that's why you're voting by mail. We don't make any assumptions. So make sure that you check all the little boxes and read everything and make sure that you sign that application before you send it back. That's very, very important. And I promise you, we'll make your votes count.
Well, Carolyn, I want to thank you today for joining us on what's happening in our neighborhood. And listen, thank you for the job that you do to keep our county, going in the right direction, and all those for the last 16 years.
I know, well, Pastor, you said what's happening in our neighborhood, but this vote is going to be what's happening in our country. So please get out and vote.
Once again, I want to thank Carolyn for joining us today on what's happening in our neighborhood. And listen, if you haven't registered to vote, get out and register to vote. And I believe that it's your responsibility as a citizen of the United States to not only register, but to exercise your right to vote. Everything hinges on us being able to do our civic duty and get out and vote today. So if you're 65 and older, if you're disabled, or if you're outside of the county, you can get a mail-in ballot. All you have to do is contact the Jefferson County Clerk's office. Here's the number. You can call them at 409-835-8760, or you can go to their website, www.co.jeffersonelections.com, and you can get that information. Also, the provisional ballots will be online, and so you go to their website once again. Listen, again, I want to thank Carolyn for joining us here on What's Happening in Our Neighborhood, and I want to thank you for joining us. Again, listen, register and get out and vote. And so we'll see you next time on our broadcast. Now I have one question for you. What's happening in your neighborhood?